Marquette Golden Eagles got their first signature win of the season on Saturday afternoon in Omaha, Nebraska, where they took down the number 7 team in the country, the Creighton Blue Jays. I'm Connor Basch alongside Grant Becker and Jack Goods. We are live from Omaha. Guys, big win for Marquette today, coming off their last win, or their last loss on the road. Really what worked for them today?
I think that the key for them was staying poised. I mean, we've seen them in the similar position before where they go up by a lot in the first half and then it starts to slowly dwindle away. You could see, especially from our vantage point down on the floor, that guys like Rousey or Howard or Fisher, they really stayed in the moment and they made sure that they weren't trying to do too much. And that made it to the point where there was a little bit of a comeback, but there just wasn't enough time for Creighton to really inch their way back into it.
Yeah, it was getting a little down to the point where Creighton climbed back to within 8 points down there in the last couple minutes of the game, but Marquette was able to shut the door through the free throw line. But really the biggest storyline of the game today was this is Creighton's first game without their star player, Maurice Watson. How did that kind of change the impact of the game today?
Well, yeah, I mean, Marquette's had trouble defending the pick and roll all season, and Watson's probably the best pick and roll player in the country. He's the best passing point guard in the nation. Without him, it was a big deal. In the postgame, they talked a lot, too, about how he's the emotional leader of this team, and so that had a big impact on them on the defensive end. And there'll be a lot of talk about Marquette's offense from this one, but what really won the game for them was that it was a high-possession game, so there was always going to be a lot of scoring. Scoring 102 points is impressive, but it was about an average game for Marquette offensively, decent from downtown, but their communication on the defensive end was so big. Luke Fisher was huge, and we were able to see the centers communicate the switches that happened, and Luke Fisher had 6 blocks, 2 in 1 possession, and he was massive. Their rotations were good, and obviously there were breakdowns, and Marcus Foster is a great player, and he's able to score a lot on his own. Patton's a scary guy, but Fisher was able to play well defensively, and he anchors that defense. But when he plays well, everyone else outside of him plays well too, and there was good communication, and obviously it made it a lot easier that they didn't have to deal with Mo Watson.
So 196 points combined between the two teams. That's the highest scoring game in the Big East combined this year. For Marquette, it comes a lot through 7 players in double figures, anchored by Creighton Reinhardt. Probably the best game we've seen from Creighton Reinhardt all year.
Yeah, I think the big storyline with this game is 2 players that have taken a lot of flack from fans and us this season, really carried them in Fisher and Reinhardt, and they both just played very effectively and efficiently, and that's not something we thought we'd be saying about Reinhardt, especially at the start of the season, but we were just talking about this on our way out here. You've seen a change in Reinhardt since he's been back from his injury and since we've entered Big East play, to the point where he is taking smart shots. He's not taking the same long threes. You might see 1 or 2 of them maybe, in a game, but he has been a much better ball handler, a much smarter shooter, and I mean, for those two to come back and bounce back like that, they're playing like Wojo has said he needs his seniors to play. They can keep that up. This is a really scary team, and they've got a really good shot, and maybe taking that 5th spot in the Big East. Yeah,
and that's something Greg McDermott in the postgame conference said. This team is as close to 6-1 as they are to 4-3. Marquette's had a couple signature wins now this season. We mentioned that this is probably their biggest win, but you've got wins against Georgia. The Vanderbilt win looks a lot better after they beat a top-ranked Florida team today. You got wins against Seton Hall, and then obviously today against Creighton. But what's coming up next? You have the number 1 team in the country coming to your home court to play. So how can Marquette kind of use their confidence from this game moving forward to play the best team in the country?
I mean, I think the guy, if they're going to beat Villanova, which is obviously the goal for them on Tuesday night, is to get Luke Fisher going. I mean, that's the one position that Villanova lacks. They don't have a true talented post player. Darryl Reynolds is a good player, and he's really improved in his time at Villanova. But if Marquette's going to win that one, Luke Fisher's got to be like this, 8 of 9. Strong defensively, and their rotations have to be smart. Villanova's going to put up points. They're going to defend your wing players. But if Luke Fisher can get going, it kind of changes the game. And you see how they play with confidence today. And now it's like they have the same confidence they had in the first half at Butler, and they know now that they can finish it out, even without Mo Watson in this game. This team showed confidence and an ability to close out a game, despite all the different looks that they threw at them. And yeah, I think Luke Fisher's the key, though, if they're going to beat Villanova. And obviously, they have to make the shots that they make. They shoot 40% from 3 as a team, 41%. That probably bumps to 42% today after they go 50%. Those shots are going to have to be made, but that's what you expect from this team. Luke Fisher in the post has to be a presence.
So 7 guys in double figures today. Might be a little hard to give out our man of the game, but Jack, I'm going to go to you first. Who's your man of the game today for Marquette?
I think Reinhardt would be the obvious choice, but I really think it was Luke Fisher, and you couldn't have asked for a better bounce-back game. He probably had his worst game of the season against Butler. This is probably the best I've seen him this year. It was to the point where you're thinking about maybe him getting a triple-double with blocks at the halfway point in the game. So when you're at that level statistically, and the fact that he was able to play very strong on both sides of the ball, I've got to give it to him.
And Grant, I'll go to you. I mean, I mentioned 7 players in double figures. He goes Luke Fisher. Creighton Reinhardt was obviously pretty good, but there was a lot of players that played really well.
Yeah, I think Fisher's impact on the defensive end, he set the tone for the game. And he ended up with 6 blocks. He had 5 in the first half. If they kept going at him, he would have had 10 blocks. I mean, they stopped going to the hoop on Luke Fisher, and they would only take their chances when they could pull him away. He was stellar defensively. And we've seen Luke Fisher play basketball for 2.5 years at Marquette. When he gets the ball on the post in a one-on-one matchup, he's going to score about 70% of the time. And so it wasn't surprising that he was 8 of 9 today. It was nice to see him do that after a bad game on Monday. But defensively, he was so good. And definitely honorable mention to Creighton Reinhardt. I mean, my goodness, was he huge. He hit big shots at big moments, was a good ball handler, made good decisions, stayed home defensively. I have nothing but good things to say about him today. But Luke Fisher was the guy who set the tone for the whole team.
Yeah, I think, sorry to take this away from you a
absolutely.
second. I think it would be doing a disservice, too, to not mention how well Rousey and Howard played today, especially because...
In each half.
Yes, and especially because it seemed, we had noticed at the start of the game, a focus for Creighton to shut down the point guard. Rousey was a very efficient 3 for 3, correct, for the 11 points?
11 points on 3 shots.
On 3 shots, and Howard was really critical there in that second half. He scored, I think, 7 points in like a 4 or 5 minute stretch. So those two... if you can get them going at the same time, it's amazing. I think that they take getting them going at different times too. And if you get that contribution plus Fisher and Reinhardt, I mean, that's pretty much all you can ask for. You're going to win a lot.
Well, Marquette Golden Eagles take the game 102-94 today here in Omaha, Nebraska against the number 7 team in the country, the Creighton Blue Jays. They will return home to Milwaukee on Tuesday against the number 1 team in the country. We were mentioning the Villanova Wildcats. That game is at 7 p.m. From Omaha, Nebraska, for Grant Becker and Jack Oates, I'm Connor Basch, and have a great evening.